everybody. My name is Long David Liu. I am the common sense candidate for the 49th Assembly District. One of my platforms is to make California not more affordable, just affordable. In California, say you make $100,000 a year. After taxes and all the fees, you are lucky if you can pocket $70,000. Imagine you don't have to pay that $30,000 for taxes. It's like making another $30,000 because saving $30,000 is the same idea as making $30,000. It's like having another income. So you will go from having one income to two incomes. How would you like that? If you like that, vote for me. Vote for having two incomes. Thank you.
Confrontation, but nonetheless, they were able to sit down and talk about the escalation of the nuclear competition. Right? Obviously, AI technology is different from nuclear technology, but that doesn't mean there's nothing we can do about. Right? For example, the track 2 diplomacy can play a very critical role when the formal delegations between two governments are hard to see eye to eye with each other. Right? Semi-governmental organizations or think tanks and university scholars can meet more frequently to set the agenda, to keep as open as possible in their negotiations and discussions and exchanges, which can, gradually shape a possible agenda for both governments to sit down eventually to talk about. Well, you could also have multilateral institutions playing a more critical role, right? And for example, a third country, right, or a regional institution like BRICS or other institutions can all be very critical in creating a momentum for both parties to sit down with each other. But overall, I think the necessity and urgency are very high level right now because of the fast speed of technological development in artificial intelligence. So the two parties can take advantage of this upcoming visit by the two heads of states in Beijing to really figure out at least a plan for the respective government officials to move on forward with a possible negotiation or discussion in the future.
Victor, can I circle back to the Taiwan question? Because China has made itself abundantly clear on this issue. There's no budging here. This is the core of China's core interests, a red line that simply cannot be crossed. And we've heard from the Trump administration, we've heard from Donald Trump himself that he respects this stance by China. He respects China. He respects the Chinese leader. When he's in town this time, how will the two sides approach this issue? Because regrettably, the U.S. has continued to sell arms to Taiwan, at times undermining the one China principle. What will Beijing want to hear from Donald Trump this time on this issue?
Well, it is important to note that before he left Washington, D.C., President Trump, in answering to questions raised by some journalists, said, the United States, continental the United States, is about 10,000 miles away from Taiwan, using his term, and mainland China is only about less than 100 miles away from Taiwan. I think his message is clear. Taiwan is so far away from the United States. Why should we bother that much about Taiwan? And Taiwan has been recognized by the United States as being part of China ever since 1971. Again, 1972, and especially after 1979, when China-US relations were normalized, and it has been consistently recognized by each of the successive governments in the United States. So I think President Trump may have all the incentives to do the right thing. Don't use Taiwan as a chip.
There he is, Victor. President Donald Trump of the United States in China after 9 years. This is the first visit to China by a U.S. president in 9 years' time. This is also Trump's first day visit to China since his re-election, and the second time President Xi has hosted him in the country. Beijing says Chinese President Xi Jinping and his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump will have an in-depth exchange of views on major issues concerning bilateral relations and world peace and development. Senior Chinese officials visiting U.S. President Donald Trump at the airport there in Beijing. The president's plane touching down moments ago. Both the Chinese and American leaders met last time in October last year in the Republic of Korea's second largest city, Busan. Beijing says head of state diplomacy plays an irreplaceable strategic guiding role in China-U.S. relations. China is willing to work with the United States in the spirit of equality, respect, and mutual benefit to expand cooperation, manage differences, and inject more stability and certainty into a turbulent and changing world. It is 8:10 p.m. here in the Chinese capital. We're looking at pictures from the airport in Beijing, where President Donald Trump has just landed. He's talking and shaking hands with senior Chinese officials who are meeting him there, welcoming him there at the airport in Beijing. And again, this is the first visit to China by U.S. President in 9 years, the first by Donald Trump since his re-entry into the White House. We have yet to find out specific topics that are on the table between the two presidents this time, but word is that the two presidents will have an in-depth exchange of views on major issues concerning bilateral relations, world peace, and development. Make sure you stay with us here on CGTN as we bring you the latest on the state visit by U.S. President Donald Trump. Again, we mentioned that President Donald Trump is traveling with a massive business delegation, reportedly with business leaders from sectors such as finance, technology, agriculture, and aviation. In the next couple of days, we will see who is accompanying President Trump, this time to China. The military band there as a part of the ceremony there at the airport in Beijing. And this is the official start of President Donald Trump's visit to China. It's a 3-day trip that will see President Donald Trump engage in in-depth exchanges and talks with his Chinese counterpart. Gentlemen, I want to briefly recap what was achieved by the two presidents' last meeting in Busan, Republic of Korea, towards the end of last year. We mentioned how during that meeting, some of the frictions in trade, some of the frictions on tech were eased. If you look at the business delegation this time, do you think it's possible that the two will move forward on the issue of trade, move forward on the issue of technology, Victor?
First of all, on the basis of reciprocity, yes, I have great hope because everything should be done with each other on a reciprocal basis. It is highly unlikely that major progress can be made if the United States wants to impose unilateral, one-sided demand on China without reciprocating for the Chinese requests or demands. So this reciprocity will be absolutely tested tomorrow during important state-to-state visits and heads of state discussions. And I hope eventually we can reach more and more agreement on reciprocity. And on that basis, I think the Chinese market demand for American products will be the largest in the world and will be unmatched by any other country. And hopefully President Trump will really deliver wonderful results for the American businesses, business owners, companies of all kinds, because they can really have great confidence and expectation to sell more goods and products to the China market. On the other hand, I do hope President Trump will demonstrate courage and wisdom and resourcefulness in dealing with this Taiwan issue. Taiwan issue should not be a major obstacle in China-US relations, especially as President Trump correctly pointed it out. Taiwan is so far away from the United States and it's just within inches of China. So why should it become an obstacle preventing and not enabling, but preventing China and the United States to achieve greater common goods for the Chinese people and the American people? I believe this will be one of the most important litmus tests tomorrow for the two heads of state to talk about. Other than that, there are so many other issues they will talk about. And from President Trump's side, I hope he will raise this Iran issue and the Chinese president will tell him the right way to end the war immediately. That will be a blessing for the American people as well as mankind as a whole, to end the war right now.
I believe we'll be hearing from President Donald Trump soon on his feelings arriving in China this time. We have yet to get to the topic of people-to-people exchanges between China and the United States, a fitting question for Professor Wan here. In this critical time, I mean, both sides have obviously realized the value of the exchange of personnel between the two sides. In broad terms, what do you think are the value of encouraging more people-to-people exchanges on a cultural level, on an academic level between China and the United States?
Well, I think people-to-people exchange on the ground is extremely important because, especially in today's world, where many young people are exposed to social media, and so you can have a problem of information compartmentalization.